Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ames. I am a musician, producer, and music production teacher. Today I am redoing a video I made last December, I believe, called How to Write a Green Day Song. So last winter I was watching a lot of videos where people did like, what if this artist wrote this song by this other artist, and they kind of do like a style swap thing. And every time I watch them, I'm like, damn, that really does sound like that artist that they're emulating. But why? So I'm like, so what if I started writing original songs, recording them, producing them, original songs in the style as closely as I can match it to the original artist, and kind of go through the process of explain in excruciating detail why artists sound the way they do. So when I had this idea last year, I figured I would start with Green Day because they're my favorite band ever. They're the first band I saw live. I used to impersonate Billie Joe Armstrong, like playing guitar and singing, and I kind of learned to sing by singing along to their songs, and that's why I naturally kind of sound like Billie Joe when I sing, and it's something that I've never been able to shake. Anytime I kind of sing aggressively, the nasally Billie Joe thing comes out, which is quite frustrating. But nevertheless, I know Green Day more than I know any other band, so I made this video, but I filmed myself doing the entire process of writing the song and recording it on the spot, and I had 4 hours of footage. And it was just an uncomfortable kind of video, but I really liked the song. I just didn't love the way it was formatted and the way I filmed it and everything. So I figured I would keep the song and make a new video in a style that I like much more. So that's what this is. So this was kind of a long-winded intro, a little longer-winded than initially anticipated, but that's okay. So we're going to jump into my Logic session and we're going to talk about, you know, a lot of this really comes down to melody and chord progressions. That's like the bigger piece of the pie in my mind, is how people write songs. And then the other less than half of the pie is how the people in the bands on the recordings for a particular artist play and their individual styles. So let's break it down. So let's start with the drums. Trey Cool, drummer for Green Day, maybe underappreciated, undervalued by the music/drumming community. I think Green Day is kind of undervalued as an artist, as a band in the musical community. I don't know why. They've been around a long time, and for some reason nowadays when you hear about Green Day, it's mostly people on Reddit being like, oh, it's October 1st, time to wake up Billie Joe Armstrong. So I don't think they get enough credit as a whole, which is weird because they're one of the most famous bands ever. That's just my opinion. So for Trey's drum sound, I'm using Superior Drummer, which is what I always use for the live drum sound. The whole song is kind of a mix of like the Dookie era and the American Idiot era. So the drums reflect that. They have like this raw, powerful sound, but they also sound kind of polished, right? So like New Age Green Day, starting around the American Idiot era, more production. I believe it's his real drum sound, drum recording mixed with samples. Whereas back in the 90s, Dookie, Insomniac, that era, it was just, they recorded the drums, put it on the track. So I'm just going to play you a sample of the drums from the second verse, just so you can have an idea of what they sound like. Right, it's like, they sound really good and super polished, but I don't know, they still have that kind of raw, gritty quality, in my opinion. It's also hard to tell because it's a drum set emulator. It's not a real drum recording, but I think it sounds pretty damn good for what it is. And also tell me this isn't a classic Trey Cool drum fill. I mean, that's Trey to a T. For Mike Dirnt's bass, it's basically compressed, but not overly compressed enough for it to maintain its jangliness. Lots of mids, a solid amount of drive and gain to give that punk rock crunch. But really, I think the main point of Mike Dirnt's bass tone is that there are just a ton of mids to really make it stick out in the mix and allow the listener to hear all these cool little fills and bass things that Mike tends to do. It's just very present. Let's take a listen. It's just like, ugh. That's how I can describe it. It's just like, ugh. One last note about Mike's bass sound. He uses a Fender P bass, which has, those two pickups that are kind of stacked on top of each other or next to each other. I have a Fender, it's a Squier jazz bass. So different pickups, but it's kind of close enough. I only have one bass. I'm not really a bass player, so forgive me, but I think the tone is still close enough. For Billie Joe Armstrong's guitar, I used my Gibson SG with humbucker pickups. I ran it through my Marshall combo amp and mic'd it up. And I really just gave it a ton of distortion overdrive, but like a punk rock overdrive, not like a fuzzy kind of thing. I really just cranked it up and let it fly. I feel like I sound like a dad right now. I just cranked it up and really just let it rip. I played the same part for, I think, the majority of the song. I just double tracked it through one to the left channel, through the other one to the right channel, and just doubled it for a big wide rock and roll sound, because I'm pretty sure on recordings, Billie Joe is the only guitar player. Jason White has been basically in the band for like 20 years now, but I think he might still just be a touring musician. I think Billie Joe does all the guitar in the studio. So it's just his part doubled left and right. And here is what it sounds like. It's just like super crunchy. It's super there. I took a lot of the low end out of it to make room for the bass, which is something I always do. And I think Trey, Mike, and Billie just really rock together. So I'll give you a snippet of one of the choruses, just an instrumental, and tell me this doesn't sound like it could have come off of Dookie. Come on. So for the vocals, I did my very best Billie Joe Armstrong impersonation, which, like I said at the beginning of the video, I learned how to sing by singing along to Green Day songs. So naturally, my voice just always every time I sing aggressively, I sound like Billie Joe. It's just something I feel like I'm stuck with at this point. Actually, the most viewed video on this channel is a Billie Joe impression video where I just took backing tracks to Green Day songs and I recorded my vocals in his voice over them. And a lot of people say I sound just like him. Obviously, it's the internet. Other people say I suck and I sound nothing like him and I should crawl in a hole and never come out. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think I sound kind of like him. It's my voice though, so it's really hard to not just hear me. So you can be the judge of that. Lyrically, I just wrote kind of a political, anti-establishment, very American Idiot era, kind of like, to quote Rage Against the Machine, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, that kind of vibe. I just feel like it's fitting for a fast punk song in the style of Green Day, because that's, at a certain point around American Idiot, they started writing songs like that. I think they always have, but I don't think it was as clear as, writing an entire album called American Idiot with the title track being about George W. Bush, like explicitly. So I went for that vibe. And I'll just play you a snippet of the vocals. I just recorded it straight through this microphone, the SM7B. I threw some tape saturation on it, some EQ, lots of eighth note delay, and some reverb. So here's what it sounds like. Their tactical distraction needs rebel counteraction, riots in the streets. You can hear that kind of crunch when the harmony comes in, like it's almost overloading it. But like in a cool punk rock way. The harmony track is the same, all the same effects, except I threw the Logic stock spreader on it to make it sound stereo and kind of surround the lead vocal. That's the sound of all of the instruments and the vocals. And let's get into breaking down all the different sections and how I actually wrote the song. Okay, so the top of the song. The song starts with this little solo guitar, just punk rock chord progression. I actually just had the guitar chord progression by itself at first, and then I figured a cool intro would be this thing that Billie Joe does when he plays American Idiot live, and he kind of just mutes all the strings and goes like ching, 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 ching. It does that, and then it goes into the chord progression. And then the full band plays it together. So right off the bat, it sounds like if you heard that right off the bat, you'd say, oh, that sounds like Green Day. And there are a few factors at play here. I mean, it's the tempo, it's just the fast punk rock thing in general, but the chord progression, I mean, I got to knock this talking point out right at the very beginning of the video, or at least of the breakdown part of the video, because it's so crucial to Green Day's sound. Billie Joe always incorporates the flat 7 chord in his songwriting, and that's basically, this song's in the key of A. So the 7 chord in the key of A is, I mean, it's G sharp diminished technically, but if you're a punk rocker with the guitar, you would play this as the 7 chord. He always throws in the flat 7 chord, which is when you take the 7 and you flatten it by another half step, which would give you G major. I mean, we were listening to Nimrod in the car. I noticed in like every single song, there's a flat 7 chord somewhere, and it just makes it sound like Green Day. So I go from A to D to G, the flat 7, and back to A. So if you didn't use the flat 7 chord and you just used the regular 7 chord, which would be this like E over G sharp thing, the riff would sound like this. Which like is cool, but it doesn't, when you use the G instead, you're like, oh, that sounds like Green Day. The flat 7 chord G is all over this fucking song because it just hammers home like, hey, this is supposed to sound like Green Day, remember? And also that chord progression, those 3 chords, those are the 3 chords that make up the American Idiot riff. So then the whole band kicks in and it's like Trey's style is there, Mike's style is there. It just instantly like hits you. So for Trey, I mean, he does a lot of, like any punk rock drummer, just a lot of, but usually when you have your right hand on a hi-hat or a ride cymbal or something like that, your strokes are like 1 and 2 and 3, and all of those ands, all those offbeats are generally struck with a lower velocity than the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. It's like all those in-between notes are struck more softly. But Trey really does this thing where he hits cymbals with his right hand pretty evenly. So instead of the hi-hat sounding like, it's very even, and it's like, and it's just weird because people usually don't play drums like that. So I kind of made the velocity the MIDI velocity on the drums so that hi-hat reflects his playing style and they're more even and less bouncy. It's a very Trey cool thing. And then when it comes to the bass line, Mike does a lot of these octave jumps and he just does these little noodles in a specific way. So I have Mike starting on A, then he jumps up to a high A on the D string, goes to D, right, follows the chord progression, but then coming back up to that A, I have him do this little F sharp to G thing. It's just, he's always throwing in these little like half step, octave jumps, and it's all very fast and it's very intense and there's a lot happening. But once you start listening for it, I mean, his playing, that's just such a cornerstone of his playing style. So check out the drums and bass together and you can hear Trey's specific drumming style and those Mike Dirnt octave little bass riff things happening together. So I continue those 2 traits throughout the entire song. The verse is pretty straightforward. Trey's doing that same kind of punk rock groove. Mike's following the chord progression with his little Mike Dirnt isms along the way. Billie's playing the chord progression, just straight strumming 8th notes. There are harmonies that accent the end of the lines, pretty standard accentuating harmony thing. And the chord progression is A, D, A, D, then it goes to G, flat 7, and then it goes to E, which is 5. Super, super Green Day. Streamline the revolution. There is no resolution. Flat 7, as I can see. Down to E. Got a cool, Trey cool. I mean, it's a standard fill, but he does them a lot. All the way down the drum kit, and the verse kind of continues on like that. After the first verse, we're into the chorus. Trey switches to the ride cymbal to kind of open it up. Bass follows the chord progression as it does for the entire, I mean, that's what the entire bass part's going to be, right? For the most part, he's just following the chords and adding in those little octave jump fill things that I talked about before. We have a new chord progression. We're starting on the 3 chord, which is C sharp minor, and going up to 4D. And then we do a little 1 to flat 7 riff. So it goes. So let's check that out in context.
Yeah, don't believe what you are forced to see. Yeah, I'd rather
So I threw that little F sharp minor, D, A thing at the end there.
forced to see.
Because I thought it would be a cool little accent area, and then it could turn around nicely into the C sharp minor again to repeat the chorus. But I thought it was a little thin like this.
Resuscitate democracy.
So I was like, okay, what would Green Day do? What kind of background vocals would they do? So I double tracked some oohs that sing ooh in harmony with each other, panned left and right, and then they join at the end of the phrase to sing a harmony. So it does something like this.
Yeah, don't believe what you are forced to see.
And like the harmonies are kind of out of tune with each other, but it kind of sounds cool because it kind of sounds raw and punk.
What you are forced to see. Yeah, I'd rather die while on my face.
I just feel like in so many Green Day choruses, I can see Mike Dirnt stepping up to his microphone live, just going, ooh. It's just, I feel like the falsetto oohs go against what you'd think about punk rock. And I think that's what makes it so awesome. They do it all the time. Because it's like, yeah, we want some fucking oohs. We don't care what you think because that's what punk rock is all about. So they always have these nice, pretty falsetto oohs in the background of their heavy punk song. Oh wait, I missed a huge part of the chorus. The end of the chorus, I throw in another weird chord just to make it sound gritty.
He's in front of a TV.
So that weird chord at the end is an F power chord that I play up there on the neck. So the end of the chorus raps E, D, F, which is the flat 6 chord. The 6th chord in the key of A is F sharp minor. And then I'm flattening that to F major, which is something Billie does sometimes. It's not as much of a staple as that flat 7 chord. But he does throw in a flat 6, some other weird stuff every now and then. So I thought it would be a cool way to end the chorus and then bring it back to that riff. Verse 2 is the same. It's the same format as the first verse, except the hi-hats are closed. The guitar is palm muted, just for some dynamic change.
Counteraction riots in the streets.
There's that extremely Trey Cool drum fill that I'm very proud of. Daga-daga-doo, daga-daga-doo, daga-daga. Sometimes instead of doing those just straight 16th notes, he'll like break them up and hit toms for accents as he pauses, and he'll just like skip 16th notes. So we'll go baga-daga-doo, daga-daga-doo, daga-daga-daga-daga-doo, daga-daga-doo, daga-daga. And it's just kind of like, whoa, it's kind of choppy, but it's really solid and it just sounds neat. And that kick drum, boom, 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 is going through the entire thing. And then we're into the bridge. So it's like a 2-section bridge. There's a rhythm breakdown and then a bridge with vocals. So the first half of the bridge, the rhythm breakdown part, is very, I can't remember what song it is off the top of my head. It might be Pulling Teeth off of Dookie, but it's very reminiscent of that Dookie Insomniac, mid-90s era Green Day. Trey does this like tom riff, and then it's all about the bass. It's like a Mike Dirnt solo, and the bass and drums have this awesome groove together. So that whole thing is that's just A on the bass, A, G, do-do-do-do. Another Mike Dirnt, like weird, oh, he jumped an octave and now he's playing a half step thing. And it just goes back and forth between the A and the G, the 1 and that flat 7 chord. You got Trey just doing a cool. It's like almost American Idiot. So then the second half of the bridge with the vocals, I'm going to mute the vocals for now and just talk about the guitar. The guitar comes in just playing single notes, but they're in different octaves. Same notes. The one in the left channel's lower, the one in the right channel's higher. You know, if you were to guess what's happening in the vocals, you would probably guess that this is what's happening. But I did this radio vocal thing. It's Holiday that has the famous bridge with what is the lyric in the bridge? Honey, what's the lyric in Holiday in the bridge? He goes like,
Representative from California.
Oh, it's the representative. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So in Holiday, he goes, the representative from California now has the floor. I just threw it into a separate track I just took out everything that's not mids, basically, to make it sound like it's coming through a megaphone. Here's what we got.
The revolution is imminent. Will you be on the right side of history?
So the other thing I added in there was 6 tracks of gang vocals just saying, hey, because that's another thing they do very often. I mean, let me just play this bridge part for you so you'll know what I mean.
The revolution is imminent.
Again, you can picture Mike Dirnt playing the bass riff live and going, hey, into his microphone on all those accents. I accomplished the gang vocals how I always accomplish gang vocals. I basically do 2 tracks in my normal voice, pan one left, pan one right. I do a second one in a lower, hey voice, so it doesn't sound as much like me. Then I pan those, and I do 2 tracks where I do like a, hey, and I try to go higher pitched just so it doesn't all sound like me. I mean, it does all sound like me anyway, but it sounds more like there are different people than if I were to just record all 6 tracks the same way. So you can do gang vocals like this too. Just do them as many times as you want in as many different kinds of tones and voices as you can muster. Pan them all various different ways and try to make them sound like they're all a bunch of different people in a room shouting together. And usually that'll accomplish the goal. So then after the bridge, we're into the guitar solo. I tried to do 2 very stereotypical Green Day things in the guitar solo. So the first half, the solo just follows the vocal melody. It just mimics ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, which is the melody of the chorus. And in the second half, I do this kind of ringy out thing, which is very letter bomb, in my opinion, which is just another thing they do. Like in When I Come Around, the guitar solo has this playing a major third interval, and then let me just play it. I have a guitar. I'm just fretting A and C sharp above it, and then I'm just changing that to the 4th, D, back and forth, so it kind of just goes. That's something they do all the time. Go listen to When I Come Around. That's what the guitar solo sounds like. So that's kind of, I feel like, how, maybe not nowadays, Billie Joe kind of shreds a little bit more now than he used to. He never really used to let it loose like he does now. Their guitar solos were always one of those 2 things. So I put them both in there, and it sounds like Green Day to me. So now we're basically at the end. There's the final chorus, which is the same. And then there's an outro, which is just the riff. Oh yeah, and I did my best Billie Joe kind of weird scream thing that he does sometimes, but I can't really do it. And I was feeling kind of shy, and I felt weird doing it, and I kind of sound like a little kid, but that's okay. And that's it. That's the entire song. Okay, so that was the entire breakdown of the song, of all the instruments, the recording, the production process. I hope you enjoyed that aspect. I mean, that's like that's the fun part to me. But I think the fun part for everybody else is going to be the next part of the video, which is the performance of the full song. So we're going to flip to that. I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think in the comments. So check out The Revolution by, I need a good fake Green Day name. I don't have one. So enjoy The Revolution by Fake Green Day, aka me.
Streamline the revolution. There is no resolution, far as I can see. You'll get your retribution, all of your institutions. the streets. Criminal benefaction is met with stark inaction while the people bleed. Resuscitate democracy. Yeah, don't believe what you are forced to see. I'd rather die while on my feet than live on my knees in front of a TV.
Hey! Hey! The revolution is imminent.
Hey!
Will you be on the right side of history?
Resuscitate democracy. Yeah, don't believe what you are forced to see. I'd rather die while on my feet than live on my knees in front of a TV.
Okay, so that was The Revolution, my best attempt at writing, recording, and producing an original copycat Green Day song all by myself from scratch. If you want to learn more about how I do things like this and how I make things sound good and get recorded good, go to my website and you can leave me a message and we can set up one-on-one music production lessons. We can talk about songwriting, music theory, recording, production, basically anything you need to start writing and recording your own music that you can release to the public and be proud of. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my band Cute Threat. We just released our first song this summer. And let me know in the comments other artists that you'd like me to do this style of video for. And for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.